Roger's neighborhood, they wanna do this, or your neighborhood, and then we get together with those people and,
This
We
last
need to be
national night out, the reserves, you did have the reserves
Yeah.
out walking around, they were looking for, they were looking for places to go, they wanted to go visit
Yeah,
people.
what we're hoping for is that the neighborhoods would form the groups, and then they would contact the police and say, between 6 PM and 8 PM, we're gonna be in the cul-de-sac here, having a neighbor's block party. And we'd like to have an officer at some time during that event,
okay,
and then you'd send somebody over.
Right.
That's the way it ought to be run. It needs to be a little bit more, formal than just walking around town looking for people having a party in their backyard.
right.
So how many hours a day do you cover now?
I usually work 9.64 hours a day.
No, I'm talking about your police force in 24 hours.
It varies because we have the officers vary the times that they work. Say if we have a speeding problem at early morning, we'll have the officer come in later at night and work into early morning to try to resolve that problem. You know, it could be, 20 hours, could be 22 hours in a day, give or take, depending on the demand, stuff that we have. If we have special events, officers, like the air show, an officer, instead of getting overtime, can come and work that shift, that extra, and then maybe take off an hour or two their next shift to make up for that, to try to cut down on overtime. So
So you work an hour and a half overtime a day?
that's what's the way it has been since the contract was signed. And before that, we actually worked 90 hours in 2 weeks. And that's myself.
3 full-time officers gets you basically what in a week? How much coverage?
It could be 20 to 22 hours a week. I'm sorry, a day.
A day.
Yep.
So otherwise, if you had 2 officers, you'd be covering 17 and a half hours a day?
If you had 2 officers, what you would run into is you would have that amount of coverage, but what you would also run into is now all of a sudden I'm sick or I'm on vacation, and then how are you going to cover those extra hours? And with that third spot, it allows us to get those hours covered still and not to get that overtime, because then they can use that comp time and have somebody else work for them, and we still have coverage. We just don't leave the chicken coop wide open and leave it.
Or if you're training, you have to go shoot or something.
Yep. There's times where, we have to divide up our people, so not all of our officers go to the training in Fountain. So somebody's back here in town. Yeah.
Adam, did you say you have 4 part-timers?
I do have four part-timers.
There's only 3 listed on this paper
Yep.
here.
Well, those are the only ones that signed up.
The other gentleman actually he has a job that he works during the day, and I don't think he drove down to get his name on the list.
But yet he still,
Yep, he still works his weekends. He actually stays at somebody's house in the area when he's on call and working, so.
which is the guy that says, you said work part-time in Chatfield and in Caledonia?
It's actually Caledonia and Goodview. That's Sheldon Headkey. And Sheldon would be the last person, the least senior person that we hired.
And of course, they've all got applications in all over the place.
It's continually there. People are constantly, this is the stepping stone into law enforcement to get your license activated. A lot of times people don't want to take you because they don't know what type of work you are. They don't know if you have, issues. So you get somebody who's worked a year or 2, has shown they have a good work ethic and does a good job, and then people usually take them away. So I can actually see people starting to pluck our part-time people fairly soon.
So for part-timers, it's a scheduling issue because of their other commitments,
Yes.
and then they're just, we're lucky to have them when we have them,
Yep.
because they're sort of transitory.
Yep. I would like to.
So reliance on part-timers is very difficult for you. You'd have to have a stable of many.
Right.
It's difficult too because we pay so much less than other departments for part-time pay.
Right.
So if they have an opportunity to go someplace and get $20 an hour versus our 13,
Because all you have to do is go to the sheriff's office to work part-time and you have $20 an hour instead of our.
And they're all
rate.
licensed.
Right. And then if we sign somebody on, we're responsible for their continuing education. You have to have, I think it's 48 credits, or is it 48, Cody, every
Yeah.
three?
So, is it necessary to have coverage on Sunday mornings? Sundays?
I would say yes, it is. You know, there's an incident we just had this last year. People are at church doing what normal people do, and a lady stands up and says, the pastor's a liar. You know, I killed the devil myself. And there was a situation where they didn't know what was going on, and they called the police, and she was taken and gotten some help. So
a lot of
we can't
leftover
pick.
partiers too.
What's that?
A lot of leftover partiers sometimes too.
I think the point Adam's trying to make is the 3 full-time officers gives him the flexibility he needs, and
It gives the city some stability.
gives it flexibility and stability. And you're able to plug in the pieces, and having the 3 full-time officers avoids the overtime that you want to avoid. Having 3 people in the rotation as opposed to how many part-timers would you need to try and maintain the same coverage?
That would probably be a nightmare.
Yes. Then it'd be unreliable, and then it's a part-time job of whether they're gonna show up or not sometimes.
And we've had in the past where someone is scheduled to work part-time for us, but then last minute they get a phone call from somebody else that's, you know, $20 an hour. So they'll choose that shift over us, and then, you know, that person is,
Then he has to plug the hole with somebody.
right. And then by plugging that hole, it always falls back to the least senior person, that third person. So then that person would have to get overtime to work that shift.
So my question would be, how did Jay Summers do it?
I think the world was a different place when Jay Summers was here. Law enforcement has changed, and it's probably changed a great deal in aspect as far as different crimes that we have now, Roger. When Jay was here, I don't imagine Jay knows or knew anything about internet crimes against children or stuff of that nature, and everything is getting to be more technical, and crimes are being committed where someone is states away, you know, from us. Children used to be bullied at school, and then they would go home and they would have a safe haven, and now they're bullied through social media, you know, their Facebook, their social, Twitter, and they don't have a place to escape that like they used to.
Drugs are different.
Drugs are definitely different. You know, I'm imagining Jay dealt with people that were intoxicated, maybe once in a great while there was some cocaine or some LSD, but now we deal with people that see werewolves because they're using plant food or stuff of that nature. But I wish I got to know Jay a little better than I did. When I started, he was playing cards, working a security dance, and I didn't get to know him. The world has definitely changed.